honey, you'll be a millionaire because we're all trying to figure out how cash disappears and nobody knows how. It's a mystery. It still is after many, many, many years. So anyway, that is a joke, by the way. If your cash or your bond doesn't cover your cash, you would mark this insufficient. Again, don't worry about it because I've never seen a court come back off of an inventory and appraisal and issue a new bond amount. We're going to go to page 2. I'm almost done, and then this is going to Rex. I'm 1 minute over my timer of 1 hour.
I have a quick question, if you don't
Yes,
mind.
honey, go.
Um, the bond, I'm a little confused with why you would have been given a bond or
Okay,
told you have to, and can you just explain what its function is and where you get it and what it means?
okay. When you're appointed, either the administrator, a conservator, or a guardian, what the judge does when you fill out your petition is on your petition, you must indicate what assets you believe that the decedent had, or the conservator had, or the minor had, or is getting, right? So you're indicating with the court on why they should appoint you because there's assets of some kind that need to be managed, right? That's why you want a probate or a conservatorship or a guardianship. So, in that case, a judge will sit there and say to himself or herself, okay, they want to be responsible for cash or assets, but believe it or not, a very high number of cases, very high number of cases, almost like 8 out of 10. I don't even want to say that, that's sad. But a very high number of cases, cash disappears. What I just said just a few minutes ago. It flies away, it disappears. We don't know how, we don't know where it went, we don't know whatever. In that case, if something happens and cash disappears, you have a bond in place. What that judge will do is that judge will order that bond company to up to the amount, say it's $20,000, and it just so happened $10,000 goes missing in cash or assets. The judge will go to the bond company or just place an order. Somebody else will do it, not the judge himself, but somebody will go to the bond company and say, now you have to replace that $10,000 and put it back into this estate or the conservatorship's money or the guardian minor's money. Minors are in a blocked account, so this really can't happen, but more conservatorships and probate. So the bond makes sure that if any money disappears, it gets to be replaced. And then the bond company is coming after, guess who? You. The
That's right.
bond company is coming after you, and you're going to give that bond company that money back. I don't care if you make it in monthly payments or if they have to take some assets of yours or they
Garnish
have
your check.
garnish your way. They have their own collection process. Not even sure what it is, but I'm telling you, bounty hunters, if you ever hear about it, that has to do with bonds. Usually, if that's in criminal cases, but
Yeah, I heard it's Dog the Bounty Hunter, like on TV.
Right.
so that's Mary. Did I answer your question, sweetheart, about bond? Because I got to go on so Rex
Yes,
can start.
thank you.
I'm 5 minutes over. Okay, so page 2, we're almost done, and then I'm going to send this over to Rex. So page 2 of the DE 160 is the probate referee will fill out. The probate referee will have a number here. The probate referee typically the statutory fee for a probate referee, I think, is 1.1% or 0.1% 0.1% of the value of the assets that they value. So they will take the total amount on attachment 2 and they will give their statutory fee. They will add any expenses in, which could be mileage, toll, if they had to purchase maps, if they had to, whatever they needed to do their value, they will put that expense here. They will give a total, and then they will send you the invoice to pay because you are responsible for paying their fees. If it's a decedent's estate and you have control of the decedent's money, you will pay it from the estate funds. If it's a conservatorship and you have control of the conservatee's funds, you will pay it from the conservatee's funds. But if you haven't received control from the bank yet to access either the decedent's money or the conservator's money, sorry, you're the conservator, you must pay the fee yourself out of your own funds. And later, when you do a petition with your accounting, you can request reimbursement of those funds. In a conservatorship and a guardianship, and even with probate estates, please be very careful and please do not reimburse yourself for any expenses that you may have covered that you didn't have cash or weren't able to access cash yet until either your final distribution on a probate or the conservatorship accounting, because you will be in trouble and could possibly lose your ability to be a conservator for that conservatee in the future, because every single dollar that you are paid from the conservatorship account must be approved by the court first. Please, you cannot pay an attorney. That means if an attorney, you hire an attorney later because you determine this case you can't do on your own and you need to hire an attorney, you cannot pay an attorney from the conservatorship account, even if the attorney asks for a retainer. You can pay that attorney from your own personal funds and then ask for reimbursement later. But most attorneys who do conservatorships and guardianships on a regular basis know they cannot accept funds, or they cannot receive funds, or they cannot be paid from conservatorship funds until the court has approved it. So again, you're either using your own funds to pay for that attorney, or the attorney knows that they cannot accept funds until the accounting's done, so on and so forth. So again, once you're done, you put all this together, you mail it to the probate referee, you ask them to value it. They have 6 to 8 weeks to complete this form, so please do it right away. And they will return it to you. Then you will date it, sign it, and you will file it with the court. And this is the form that you will start your accounting on. Do you have any questions on that piece? Because I'm going to turn it over to Rex, and then I will be back after Rex teaches the accounting class. I will be back to instruct you how to complete the petition for the approval of the accounting.
A really quick question. I know we're running late. So once both these forms are filled out, it comes back from the probate, you sign it, you send it in, and not until that's approved, then can you pay out of the monies that are there?
Ask your question one more time, sweetheart.
When are you allowed to pay out of the funds that you have access to pay the attorney?
The attorney cannot be paid until they turn in an accounting and get approval from the court for their hours. The court looks at the attorney's hourly rate and make sure it's within guidelines. And the attorney cannot be paid from conservatorship funds until the court approves the petition, which I'm going to get to at the end.
Okay.
Right? You can pay all other bills except from conservatorship funds. Probate, this does not affect probate. Probate, you can use the funds to pay an attorney. You're supposed to get approval there also, but I'm specifically talking conservatorship funds. The attorney cannot be paid from the conservatorship account until you do a petition, and until you do behind your petition will be your accounting, and you ask for approval of those funds. Otherwise, if the attorney will not work with you unless you put down some type of a retainer, you must give your own personal funds to pay that attorney and ask for reimbursement when you turn in your accounting. Does that make sense?
Well, if it's a disabled human being who doesn't have any assets, but you require an attorney to get conservatorship, it's going to cost you the money anyway, right?
That's correct.
The conservatorship then is doing it out of their own pocket.
Kindness of their heart.
There's
Okay.
another factor to consider on a conservatorship with no assets. It's you request that you don't have to do an accounting or resign as conservator of the estate. Only conservators of the estate are required to do accountings.
But
Okay.
she's talking more attorney fees, not necessarily.
Like a limited conservatorship for a disabled adult. They're only going to give conservatorship of the person. They're not going to do, there's no assets.
Then there's no accounting.
Then there's no accounting. You wouldn't go through this, and you wouldn't, whatever you would need an attorney for, this would only be if you're conservator of the estate or a decedent or a minor account. If you're
Limited conservatorship does not include estate.
correct, then you would
Okay.
not need the inventory and appraisal. You're not going to need an
Krista, do you
accountant.
remember where we transfer ownership?
You need to mute Rex.
Sorry.
So you will not need any of this if you're only conservator of the person or
Great.
limited conservator of the person. Any other
Thank you.
questions before it goes off?
I have a question. I think if I can explain myself. Now, I'm a conservator, and she had property that was sold, but we still have that the funds in the account. So I do have to file this, right?
Yes. But
Okay.
because the house was sold, honey, you're only going to report cash.
Right.
You're not going to report the real property.
Right, because you no longer have it.
Again, the minute you took control or you were ordered the conservator,
Right.
you are responsible for every dollar of
Right.
balance owned by that person. Yes.
Right.
So you must do this.
Okay. And then I'm sorry to go back to that bond. Which one would I mark? 6, 7, or 8?
Well,
Statement.
the bond, if the judge did not,
I do have one.
okay, then that's 7.
Okay,
And
that's
then you're
all.
going to put the bond amount.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. So if the deceased person has Social Security going into a checking account, and the disabled person, and I'm as representative paid, does that then now say we need an accounting?
If you're a conservator over the estate, you need an accounting. If you are not conservator over the estate and you are just the conservator of the person, you do not need an accounting.
And so if that person has a checking account with Social Security money going into it, that's up to the personal representative to take care of?
Uh, unless you applied to be the conservator of the estate and you were appointed, you would not do the accounting or worry about estate funds.
Thank you.
Now, if you want to take it over from the conservator or the person you stated, if you wanted to take it over, then you could, but you would have to apply to be conservator of the estate if you only asked for conservator of the person.
Okay. Thank you.
Because conservator of the person makes like medical decisions. You could be granted the ability to make marriage decisions or whether they date or not date or have or education, or you're really the person. What does the person need to live as normal life as they can, right? That's different than being a conservator over their money or their how they spend their money or how they get their money or how that you invest their money or things of that nature. That's totally different. There are two different parts to it. One is person, one is estate. You only do this for estate.
Right. But the issue is there's somebody who has to spend their money on their behalf coming from the government.
If you did not apply for of the estate, you do not have to do this accounting, hun.
Okay.
And
I'm just wondering
however,
if you're forced. I'm just wondering if the law says you have to apply for the estate. That's what I'm wondering. Are you
yeah,
obliged? Do you have to apply for
the
estate?
the law would be more, what were you appointed? Were you supposed to apply for conservator of the estate? That would be on you. The court can't tell you what to apply for. If you only applied for conservator of the person and you were only appointed conservator of the person, then it is your responsibility to go back and also apply for conservator of the estate.
Okay.
That's the part you have to figure out on your own, hun. That
Thank
would
you.
be totally different. Anybody else, real quick?
I had a quick question
Yes.
for item 7, the bond amount. When you have a temporary and a general conservatorship, should you be using the bond amount noted on the general order versus the temporary order? Different amounts because real property wasn't involved in the temporary
I
conservatorship?
would list the higher one
Okay,
because
that's what I
that's the one you have filed with the court and they're going to know that. I would use the higher dollar amount if it's asked to be increased.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna let
Can I
this
add
go.
one question real quick?
Yeah.
At the top, I think I asked you yesterday, but on the top where it says inventory appraisal and you have the boxes and it says you put final, but under property tax certificates, could you mark that if you're just doing that form?
Honey, say that one more time. I wasn't
So the
clear.
box that says property tax certificate,
Mm-hmm.
can you mark that if you're trying to get property values so that way you're not having the referee?
No. It has to be one of these, hon. And likely it would be a final. And in your case, because you're right. Hi, honey. I just talked to you yesterday.
Yes.
You would actually, in your case, we weren't sure if the prior attorney had already turned one in or not, but I thought one of your notes were to complete a final. You would just mark it final, which is what the court wishes, and you would. I know you stated your own value, or you had your own value from a assessor. like if that's how you want to proceed, then you would put the value in and wait to see if the court accepts that or not.
Okay.
Doubt it, but honey, you've already done so far and you're in the mix of a couple of different weird things of how your case landed. So you may be able to do that, but you would still mark it a final, honey.
Okay. That's what I need to find out. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? I'm going to send it off to Rex and I will be back. I may bounce in a little bit and assist him in some of the things he says about the accounting, but otherwise, oh, I need to stop sharing my screen. That's what I need to do.
Yeah, what I do, Tamara, is I'm going to revoke your co-host,
Go for it.
and it should come back to my. See, Tamara and I are in different locations,
I'm not going
and
to
so
feel bad you revoking me. I promise.
it won't hurt a bit. Okay, so I need to get a screen going here. Give me a moment, please. Does everybody see? Wait a minute. I need share. Okay, does everybody see a form that says charges?
Yes.
Good. Then we're all on the same page, so to speak.
May I ask one quick question?
Sure.
Is this being recorded so I can go back and listen again?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, we give this class often, so maybe the recording wouldn't be so much, but maybe you want to just attend the class a couple of times. It's helpful, even though we really repeat the data. Sometimes my examples are a little bit different, so you may want to take the class because you can take it as many times as you wish. Go ahead, Rex.
Yeah, and we try to give the class every 2 months.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm still adjusting screen. Give me a moment, please. Oh, okay. So Tamara went through the inventory and appraisal. That's the initial thing that you need to do for a court accounting. And that is filed after 90 days from your appointment. And then at the end of the first year, you're going to need to file a complete accounting. And then in subsequent years, subsequent alternate years, you're going to have to do another accounting. So from the accounting reports to the court, you will be filing at the end of the first year, the third, fifth, seventh, ninth, and 11th years is the sequence that's required by the probate code. So since everybody can see the summary of account, this is the GC 400 sum. And if you can mark it or if you printed out the materials, you can tab it because we're going to be going back and forth to this form during my presentation because we're going to be going through gathering data for each of these lines. And I'm going to have us out on subschedules to develop the data that will come back here and be part of the summary. Since I will be bouncing around many pages, I point out that in the lower left screen, there's a 6-digit number, and this one says 21. That is the page number that I will be referencing to so that you don't get lost as we go through a lot of different pages. So other parts of this form, some of the background information, it's either a GC 400 sum or a GC 405 sum. And I think of this form like an axle on a bicycle. So it's the center axle of that bicycle wheel. And each of these forms are like what is at the end of the spokes. Because it's as if you were doing on a website, you clicked on 19100 and then it brought you to a spreadsheet or something. So you don't get confused and disoriented in that regard. Some background on the form: guardianship, conservator. If you're doing a probate, write probate. If you're turning in court accounting for a trust, you write trust up here and the case number. Probates, guardianship, and conservatorships must use this form. It says judicial council, mandatory use. The judicial council is like the board of directors beneath the California Supreme Court. They decide on what forms are going to be filed in our legal system, and all those forms are available online, free, and they're fillable. And so it says it's required for probate, guardianship, and conservatorship. If you're doing accounting for a trust, either revocable or irrevocable, this is the form that you would format that you would be using. You would use the same format, but you wouldn't need to use this particular form. I have an example where we are not using judicial council forms and looks more like a spreadsheet. And even if you do your accounting on different software, before you turn it into the court, you have to copy the summary information onto this form or it won't be accepted. So we list which account. It's a current account. It's not the final account. So if we were at the closing of a probate, we do a final account before final distribution order, and the date started the accounting and the date concluded. The form is set up in two halves: charges and credits. And I don't like the wording. It's kind of arcane. But if you think of what the law is doing to you in this regard, it helps with the definition of what's a charge and what's a credit. So think of charges as you're responsible for somebody's money. So you're charged with that.
Rex, we can't hear you anymore. We can't hear you when you turn away.
I've got my volume turned up. Let me see what else I can do.
We can hear you now.
Oh, it's okay now?
Mm-hmm.
It's only when you turn away.
Okay, so my microphone is directional, so I'll have to keep looking straight ahead. So sorry about the audio. So think of charges as you're charged with a responsibility, and if any money is missing, you will be personally responsible for those funds. And then the other part of it, that's for either money you have or money that came in. Then you're charged with that responsibility. Credits is your discharge of that responsibility. So the money went out, and when the judge approves your accounting, you are no longer responsible for those funds. And until the judge approves your accounting, you are responsible. The other way the form is set up, if you look at formatting, we have things at the beginning of the accounting, and at the bottom we have things at the end of the accounting. And then everything happens in the middle between lines 2 and lines 12. That's the flow of funds in, flow of funds out. From your beginning inventory appraisal that you filed 9 months after appointment, you will get the total assets, cash assets for line 1A, and you will copy your non-cash assets for line 1B. So this is a copy job, and it's your total assets at the beginning of the account. Now we'll be going through the subschedules for the income coming in, and there's a lot of them, and then disbursements, and then the ending assets. It's kind of like the inventory and appraisal. You list the details of all your cash assets, the details of your non-cash assets at the end of the accounting period, and then that's available at the end of the accounting period. And your goal during all the accounting is making line 7 match line 14. If it doesn't match, then you're not done. Don't bother turning it in. That's the first thing they look at. Does it balance? I do a lot of income tax work in addition to law. And for income tax, the IRS does not want pennies on the tax return. Pennies are worthless now, and we round off for tax to the nearest dollar. However, the court system is a little more anal retentive, and they want pennies on everything, so don't round your numbers. Another thing I wanted to point out on the format of the form for your help is in the lower right gives you a reference to some code sections, probate code section 1060, etc., California Rules of Court 7.7575. And I point this out if you want to look at more detail on how this came about, or what do they mean by this? What's the statute behind this requirement? The probate code is readable, and not so much like the Internal Revenue Code that's almost in hieroglyphics. So if you do need to reference something, you can find it. Now, I want to get another form to come up. Oh, losing that form. Hold on a second. This one. Oh, okay. There we go. Let me see if I could make this bigger for you a little bit. Is the form big enough on your screen to see the numbers?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Okay, so the GC 400 sum market, we're going to come back to it quite a bit. And the instructions tell you if you end up with a number, nothing in that account, you're supposed to put a 0. So that makes it an affirmative statement, not just implied that nothing is there. Okay, so we go to page 21-1A, and here we have cash on hand at the beginning of the account period, and you will mirror the data from your beginning inventory and appraisal. List the asset numbers. And what I suggest in terms of counting and comparability is give each of your assets, cash and non-cash assets, a line number, line 1, 2, 3 for each asset separate, and then keep those line numbers forever and don't change them, because the probate examiners may trace between accountings and they want to know what it is. So if you end up selling asset number 7, going forward, never use the 7 with any data again. Otherwise, it won't be compatible between accounting years. So this 57,844 is a simple number. It's a copy job from your inventory and appraisal. This is for cash assets. And then the non-cash assets It's also a copy job from your beginning inventory and appraisal. I point out that under probate section 2628, if you have a small estate with very few assets, you can petition the court not to do an accounting. If it has to do with trust or probate, sometimes you can get the court to accept the beneficiary's agreement not to do an accounting.
Just
Another, go ahead.
Sorry, when you look down at your paper, we can't hear you. You have to look directly at the computer the whole time.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. I had some problems and I went off my desktop to my laptop and I'm not used to working on it. Keep pointing that out when I deviate, please. Okay. So, what was my topic? Oh, I know. When you say you have a husband and wife, they've been married for 47 years. One of the spouses become incapacitated. You form a guardianship because you forgot to do your estate planning and did not have a durable power of attorney for asset management. Because if you have a durable power of attorney for asset management, you don't have to do a conservatorship. The agent just takes over. But if they don't have that document, one spouse is incapacitated, you form a conservatorship. And then I've seen cases where the attorney has set it up where the client has to do an accounting. There's probate code section starting on section 3051, 3054 that says if you have community property assets, each spouse has complete management and control of those community property assets. So if one spouse drops out by incapacity, the other spouse has full authority and control to manage those assets. So you will not have to do an accounting with judge approval in that circumstance. In the non-cash assets, we have a new column, and this column is called estimated market value. You do not use that column in your first account current, but from the second onward, you need to estimate the market value of your assets. And you don't need an appraisal. If it's real property, a Zillow estimate is good enough. You don't have to justify where you got the number. If it's a stock portfolio, you would take the fair market value from the broker statement on the date of the accounting. And the next column, carry value, never changes. So that's the detail from cash and non-cash assets at the beginning of the account. And you just carry that forward to the GC 400 sum that we spoke about originally.
May I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You mentioned that the carry value never changes. Can you expand a little bit, please, on the carry value?
Sure. What you ended up having, we'll go back to cash assets. Cash assets have a value, okay? US currency. We assume the value never changes. That's not true, but we assume that because we're in the United States, cash never changes value. Under non-cash assets, real property, marketable securities, those change all the time, but you don't care. If the portfolio went up 10%, down 10%, the value that you show is the value, carry value you were given for real property by the probate referee, and that is your value forever. Doesn't change. Market is ignored. And for marketable securities, the same thing happens. You had Apple stock at 124 a share when you originally were appointed, and for 2,900 shares, that value never changes. The market value never changes under carry value. That's different than market. Don't worry much.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. So what he's basically trying, or what he's saying, which the carry value will change, and we'll give instances where a carry value at the end could be different. But when he's saying carry value, that means, especially for your assets at beginning, only beginning. Forget the whole at the end because that'll come later. At the beginning, when you're doing your first accounting, your carry value will always be the number that the probate referee gave on the inventory and appraisal. So all you're doing is copying all the data from the inventory and appraisal. So attachment 1 will go on your cash assets, which is the form he had right before here. Attachment 2 assets that are on your inventory and appraisal, you will just copy them directly to this non-cash asset page, and your market value and your carry value only at the beginning will be the exact same numbers as what was given on the inventory and appraisal. So be very careful that when you're talking about beginning of account assets only, you will only use the values from the inventory and appraisal. So your market value and your carry value will be the exact same number, and they will be the number from attachment 2 of your inventory and appraisal. It changes when you get to assets at the end of account period. That's where he's talking about market value will change, and carry value can change also. And it will only change, for instance, if at the beginning, say the probate referee, you had 100 shares of Apple stock, and during the accounting time period, you sold some of those Apple stock. So in the end, you only have 50 shares of Apple stock instead of the 100. Your carry value total will change to only reflect the carry value of 50, whatever you have left. So the carry value could change, but typically it does and it doesn't. It depends on if you're selling any of those stock. And then again, the carry value will change if you do DRIP investments, which is dividend reinvestments, because when those dividends, when you're purchasing more stock than what you originally started with, so the dividend repurchases the stock, you have to add in the total of what you purchased to the carry value. So carry value on annuities change, but carry value for like real property and other items will never change. So that's what he means by that. Sorry, Rex, go ahead.
No problem. That's fine.
Excuse me, may I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I just wanted to confirm. If I'm doing a probate, I'm executor, I'm doing a probate, there's no cash assets, there's only a property in the estate. I'm only doing one accounting, correct?
And then you will have on that first page of cash will state 0. You must include that schedule, and you will put 0 as cash assets. And in fact, typically, Rex, slide up on your slide one page, hon, just one page. There you go. So what you would do here is your first line item would say zero cash or no cash, or you will say cash and the value on the other side under value will read zero. And then you'll go down, Rex, slide down now back to that screen 25. There you go. So your first line item would only list the address of the property. And so your market value would be the number that was given on the inventory and appraisal, and your carry value would also be the same number that's on the inventory and appraisal by the probate referee. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes, I just wanted to confirm. And so when we are looking at that first page that says charges and credits, in the charges portion, the cash is going to state zero. The non-cash assets is going to put that same number from the inventory and appraisal.
You are correct, honey.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
if you have one piece of real property, the carry value does not change over time. It'll stay the same, with the possible exception if you remodeled the property and put another 150,000 of remodeling costs, then the carry value would change, but you're adding an asset, which is different. If anyone has an interest in how the probate referees come up with their values, there's a probate referee guide that's available free from Fiduciary Real Estate Services. It's online. We've gotten a copy of it when we've had questions. You can also ask your probate referee about the qualifications for identifying asset values. So,
Okay, I'm sorry, just one more thing. At the very top, when you said don't check conservatorship or guardianship if it's probate, just write in probate.
yes.
Underneath where it says conservatee and minor, am I supposed to add something else there or just leave those
Okay, you would,
boxes
okay, for probate, you would not check conservator, not check guardianship, and you would just put probate. And
and
then they
leave
would,
the boxes underneath clear?
you leave them blank also.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so
I will
much.
tell you, I myself, when I do these accountings, which I do many, 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 I will not write the word probate. The court knows if neither of the upper two boxes are marked and neither are the bottom two boxes marked conservatee or minor, they know it's a probate. I do not write in probate. Go
Okay.
ahead, Rex.
Yeah, so what we just did is went into the details of line 1A. I'm back on page 21, and we've got a couple lines filled out already. The beginning cash, beginning non-cash, and they have a term there, carry value. Another definition of carry value could be considered burden. You're burdened from the court with the values of someone else's assets, so you're acting like a bank in a fiduciary capacity for someone else, hence the wording fiduciary accounting. Okay, so I'm going to move on to page 22, and this is an optional worksheet if you want to use it. It's a summary sheet that can be used from detailed schedules. Each of these items come from a different schedule, and you can summarize them here if you want to. It gives you a nice audit trail, and that is before you bring it to the GC 400 sum, which is back on page 21. So it was from A and B lines from the GC 400 sum. It's optional. The form says don't turn it in with your accounting. Now we're moving on to page 23. We have receipts. We're going to be doing income for a while. So this is receipts. We have cash dividends. And under the cash dividends, you take every dividend from the broker statement and list the dividend. The broker statement sometimes we'll break it out by investment category or vendor or subject company. But you need to enter each of the transactions. And I'll go back and explain a little bit more about the dividend reinvestment program. When you have securities in a brokerage house, frequently they say, well, you want to be fully invested, so take all your dividends and buy more stock of the same stock. Sounds good, but they're not doing fiduciary accounting. What happens is that you have to report the regular dividend that came in, and then for those nickel and dime 0.03 shares for $4.20, you bought some more Apple stock. Then you have to go to another schedule in the accounting, show the purchase for that 0.07 shares you bought, add it to your inventory and appraisal, and then it adjusts your carry value. And that was only one transaction. And if you have 47 different stocks, that's a lot of work. So you'll know it when your dividends get reinvested. So you'd ask your broker to take all the dividends and keep them in cash instead of buying new stock. Then your dividends are good. Here it's just reported, you got dividends, fine. And then you can wait until maybe it's 10,000 of cash and then invest it all at once. So it would only be one transaction. But if you have one of those programs, it'll save you a lot of effort.
And I'm just going to add while we're here that typically when I'm doing an accounting, I don't like this safeguard investment cash dividend just title. I myself, so under April, would put dividend, and typically whether it'll tell you on this statement whether it's Apple or whether it's it will tell me what the dividends for. I like to state each of them. So but on this form itself, slide up a minute, Rex, let me see the sorry, too far. But this doesn't necessarily, because it does say dividends. You might have several different annuity accounts. So I like to separate per account. So it might be safeguard investment dividends account 1, 2, 3, 4, and then below you might have another safeguard investment dividends account 3, 4, 5, 6. Do not mix them, separate, keep them separate, grouping like it's done here. That will be helpful.
Quick question, just for confirmation. If there's no cash, anything, there's no dividends, there's nothing in being input, there's no income coming into the estate, do I just put 0 on Schedule A?
If you don't have, we're going to deal with a lot of forms. The Judicial Council has approved 48.
We can't hear you, Rex.
The Judicial Council has approved 48 different forms and schedules. You would only include it if you had a transaction. Otherwise, leave it blank. Don't use it.
Okay, so for Schedule A, since we're I'm looking through the pages that you had given us, it's about income coming in throughout the time, right?
Correct.
I would just scrap Schedule A. I don't need to include that in my accounting.
Do not include it because you don't have any income. And that's
Okay,
the appropriate way to handle it. You don't need to say you don't have any income. What ends up happening is, I'll go back to the GC 400 sum on page 21. If you had nothing received, line 2 is 0. Receipts during period, 0. Other gains on during the account period, 0. They had no income. Everything was outbound. So that's the appropriate way to show that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure. So we did dividends. Now we have interest income. List the vendor or custodian of the funds and the amount of dividends from the broker statement. Then pension income, usually that's taken off the bank statement, the cash that came in from each of the pensions. Pretty straightforward. And rents. So in the rent section, if you have 3 rental properties, you'd probably have 3 different groupings of transactions. I might put that it's a single family residence. If it's a 100-unit accounting, 100-unit apartment, I would probably say that, or commercial property, just to let the reader know what your rental income's coming from. Then on page 27, we have Social Security and other public benefits. What happens on the Social Security, it comes in right to the bank account. And, you know, the Social Security might be $2,500 a month from Social Security calculation, but they might only give you $2,250 because they take out a Medicare. So you only write in what came in cash. The fact that they withheld funds, you cannot control those funds. You're not responsible for them. The probate examiners in our court all have to take this class. And we had a probate examiner one day taking the class, and she immediately pointed out that you can't do that. It shows here date of receipt, and it's 3 months of Social Security, and you put a total. It says you can't do that. You have to put each check that came in, no grouping or bunching. The other thing that's not your concern is at the end of the year, there's going to be a 1099 SSA issued from the government, and the total Social Security received is going to be more than what you show because yours is net of the Medicare. Not to worry about it. You're doing it the right way, just with the amount of cash that you're responsible for.
So
Okay,
is that
back on.
Rex, can I just ask you what your comment you just said, the form you get from the government, the 1099 will be higher because of deductions, and this form will not match that. So where does your amount go on page 21 that you keep going back
Okay,
to?
got it. Got the question. Okay, so if you will see, we are on GC 400A series of forms. So that's income coming in, and then on the GC 400 sum, it's a subcomponent of line 3, receipts during period.
Okay.
And Social Security is just one of the components that comprise the 43,000.
Thank you.
But there's more to it because I do a lot of tax work, you know, that it's different number on the tax return. And let me just say, if we have a good court accounting and we're doing a fiduciary income tax return, we can use a lot of the data, but not all of it, because court accounting has its probate code statutory required. For income tax, if you use the reports for income tax, it's on a different standard entirely controlled by the Internal Revenue Code. So they don't always reconcile, and it's not your problem because it's a different set of laws. Okay, another item on rental income, it was a previous schedule on page 26. You would only list passive rentals, rental properties, for example. If you had an Airbnb, a bed and breakfast, inn, hotels, motels, you would not list them there. Those are active trades or businesses, and it's not considered rental income. It's considered a trade or business. And if we go back to the GC 400 sum, if you on line 6 on page 21, you can see that income from a trade or business, it's separated out. And the nice thing about the trade or business line is that if there is a trade or business, you can take the accountant's report from the trade or business and just use the total and attach it. You don't have to do all the income, all the expenses for supplies, repairs, maintenance. You don't need all that detail if it is a separate trade or business. Then we get to line 28 or page 28, receipts. This is miscellaneous. Anything else that you haven't found a form for, just listed here. State tax refund, health insurance refund, different things, just any miscellaneous item.
28.
And we've been dealing with this GC 400A, and now we're changing, and G, it says 400B. So what that means, when that change takes place, you need to go to the GC 400 sum on page 21 and enter in all the totals from all the schedules that refer to the GC 400A series of forms. That's your receipts during the period, kind of like what cash came in. Okay, then we have one on gains on sales. Let me see if I can find that form easily. Here we go. So on this form, we sold a house. The house for that probate that just has one house, we sold it to a probate, got judge approval. And when you sold the house, you bring it to court, and then somebody gets a chance to overbid and take the sale. So in this case, your carry value is a copy job from your inventory and appraisal. Then you have the sales price. What happens is you get the title company's report. It has to say final closing statement. A lot of them I get say preliminary closing statement. Well, that's only an estimate. I can't use it. Final closing statement from the title company, and this 250,000 is the gross sales price without any adjustments. And you forget about everything else for a while. We'll cover it. And then the way the form is designed, it says you sold it for 250. You acquired it when you got appointed, got your letters at 230. So you made 119,000, or correction, 19,100 gain. And that's the number you have to use for the gain. And now we're on the 400B series of forms. So that's the gain. For fiduciary accounting, that's the gain. For reality and income tax, that is not the gain. You have realtor commissions, closing costs, property tax, all kinds of other expenses, but this is a fantasy gain. The court wants it this way, just do it that way. And we'll get to the rest of the expenses shortly. So since we're out of the B series form and now we're starting a C series, that's my clue that I need to go back to the GC 400 sum so that we can use the total. Gains during period, 19,100. And we don't have any other gains, any other charges or income. We have no items on line 6. So you can total out your first half, the income side of your GC 400 sum. Now let's see if I can find my place. Got so many pages. Let me let Gordon in. B. Here we go. So now we're starting the disbursement section. This is the outflow of funds. And in this case, we have, if they're in a long-term care facility, you list the rent, food, everything, what you pay the facility every month. And they're pretty good about getting you statements every month for your accounting. Then other disbursements, general, administrative, there's general administrative is more like your miscellaneous expenses. Let me see. Okay, so we're in disbursements. I'll just give you some form numbers because as a fiduciary, you also have a responsibility to hire an accountant or do the income tax returns. It's part of normal responsibility. Some forms that might be helpful as background information for you. There's an IRS Form 56, which you tell IRS that I'm the fiduciary for this conservatee or for this probate, and I'll sign the tax returns. There's also the IRS Power of Attorney Form 2848. When you have a tax return as a fiduciary and there's a refund, you have to file a Form 1310 that you promise IRS you're going to use the refund money properly. And oftentimes for conservatorships, we find out that maybe for several years they had not filed tax returns. And then it's your responsibility to make sure all those are now filed. And sometimes we'll use an IRS form 4506T as in Tango, so that we get the IRS computer transcript to be able to fill in the data from the prior year tax income deduction items. Okay, so disbursements for living expenses, just miscellaneous, has nothing to do with tax deductions. You know, a birthday party for the conservatee, that's all fine. Then disbursements for medical. This expense here is after the what you pay after the co-insurance is paid. So it's only the cash going out that gets into your accounting, not the full bill that the medical facility paid and the insurance company paid the other part. It's just your out of pocket.
Rex, I have a quick question. Up on the top of each of these schedules, I see the number, the thing GC 400. But I thought that GC stood for the conservatorship and the GE stood for something else. So it would have been a GC 405.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that distinction because there's only one set of judicial council forms.
Okay, thank you.
And the fact that they didn't reference it, it's still the proper form to use and it will not get kicked out. The point is, like in this case, disbursements on a property sale. If this is appropriate, it's irrelevant that it doesn't match guardianship or conservatorship.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Rex, quick question.
Go ahead.
Between all the different forms for Schedule C, where would I put like the mortgage and utility payments for their property?
Let's see, I don't have that. Disbursements, medical, property sale.
It's
Property
under
sale.
living or
Here's one, disbursements on rental property, disbursements other. If you had no other, you could use this miscellaneous on page 37. Losses on sale. I don't have a flip chart to be able to answer that quickly.
it's under living expenses. You can put it there.
True. Yeah, mortgage, insurance on the house. Good point. Thank you, Tamara.
Okay. And then I saw on the one that said general administration, is that where I would put probate referee expenses?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then any like house maintenance and court, like court, what about court fees? Would that go under like administration as well?
Yes, generally under the miscellaneous for court fees, attorney's fees, reimbursements for costs for filing in court, things of that nature.
Okay, and then so like house maintenance, the mortgage, utilities, insurance, all that can go under living expenses or under the other portion.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
One thing I want to tell everyone that I think is being missed out of all of this accounting is please remember you are only taking the data from a bank statement. You will not enter any data on these schedules where you paid out of your pocket. Like, say you went to Walgreens and did a prescription and you ended up paying for it. If it doesn't go through a bank statement, you better not include it on here or you will never balance. Remember, you're only taking data off a bank statement or where he's at right now, where it shows property sales. I need to ask for, if I'm preparing an accounting, I will ask for the final closing statement and I will repeat every single item that's on the final closing statement on this particular property sale expenses form. So remember, again, you're not including stuff that might have been paid out of your own pocket or unless it's like using the conservatives cash or something like that. You're not just blindly entering expenses. You're following a bank statement.
May I ask something?
Sure.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of if you was doing an itemized statement or you itemize in your taxes. So when you go to the bank, and although they have this amount of money in the bank and you have to use your own self money, when you take out that money when you withdraw the money from the bank, you specify what that was for. And also if you have to put with it, you will show a receipt that you put this amount with it. So when you say to back up everything with a receipt, make a copy of it. So if it ever have to go to court or someone have to look over it, you have the receipts and everything to clarify everything. This what you said that would make it easier.
I'm going to stop you a little bit in what you just said, sweetheart. So, say for instance, let's just use the example. Say you took the conservatee to a podiatrist, right?
Yes.
And the podiatrist charges, let's say $300, and you know the conservatee only has about 250 in her bank account, right?
Yes.
And you have to front $50 because maybe that's your mom or a relative, or it doesn't matter. You're like, fine, I'll pay the rest just for you to have it.
Yes.
You will only record the amount taken from the conservatee's bank account, and then the extra $50 you will ask for reimbursement. If the conservatee has cash, you will ask for reimbursement once we get to the petition for final distribution. You
Okay.
would not enter the total of 300 for that expense because you're not going to balance. Trust me, you will not, because $50 came from an outside source. So you're already going to screw your balance by $50, right?
Okay.
So you're only going to include the amount that came out of the bank account. You are not going to include the other 50. Regarding receipts, yes, you must keep receipts because there is an opportunity that if a beneficiary or somebody wants to contest your accounting and say, oh, heck no, you didn't spend 300 at a podiatrist, you can respond and go, yes, I did. Here's the receipt. But otherwise, you are not turning in receipts to court now. It's only if you're asked to provide those receipts.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind when you're doing it and be very clear. You're only going to record in your accounting what came out of the bank. So when you're doing an accounting, you're not looking at a register you did or anything you did. You're only looking at your bank statements, and you're copying from your bank statements to the appropriate schedule. So you don't care what other records you've kept, whether it's QuickBooks, Quicken, or did an Excel spreadsheet. You're only looking at your bank statements and recording what came out of the bank accounts. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, in addition, I'd like to comment, never take cash out of a bank to pay for fiduciary expenses. If you need a check to write it or you have a debit card, that way you have a bank record. If you pay out of your own funds, as I agree with Tamara, and what ends up happening is when you petition the court to get reimbursed, then when you're reimbursed, it goes into the expense, but no accrued liabilities show.
And I'm going to give one more final thing. Be very careful, especially for conservatorship accounts. You cannot pay, well, maybe I shouldn't say cannot. That's a bad word. You should not pay, like, say, for instance, that conservatee passes away. You cannot, or you are not, you do not have permission to use the conservatee's funds for funeral expenses and expenses to deal with the funeral until you get court approval. That's one of the things they're pretty cautious about. using now, not like you want to pay out of your funds really for the whole funeral expenses, and then you can ask for reimbursement. But what you may wish to do in the meantime is, if you have funeral expenses or you wish to purchase a gravesite ahead of time or something like that, my suggestion is always to petition the court, tell them that you wish to do this, and get permission ahead of time. There's really only three things that the court is very funny about you using conservatee funds to pay. One is yourself for anything, the other is the attorney for anything, and the third would be funeral expenses and things like that. I have had conservatorships in the past where a mom has a child, not a child, she was like 24, but she has a medical condition, and so she's in a care home and things like that. Mom went forward and pre-purchased a gravesite, because it looked like it was near, and used like 10 grand to purchase that. The court forced that conservatee to repay that 10 grand back to the conservatee, stating, wait, they're still alive, what are you doing? And even though the mom said, well, sooner or later she's going to go there, court said no, like you don't have permission to do that. Put the money back. And so if you do expenses like that and pay them ahead of time and turn in an accounting, the court could come back and hold you responsible and tell you to pay that money back. So be careful on just those specific things. Remember, no attorney payments from the conservatee, no payments to yourself unless you get for anything, unless you get a court approval. And no, be careful on funeral and stuff like that. And I'll tell you, that accounting was done a while ago, years ago. I still do it because it's a conservatorship. The mom swore the daughter had less than 6 months, and it's been almost 6 years now, and the daughter's still thriving fine. So that tells you, okay, she just pre-purchased that. And the court made her put the money back. So keep stuff like that in mind when you're using conservatee funds.
Okay, to continue on, I want to introduce the newest member of my family. And we got a Yorkie Terrier that's about 3 pounds, 3 months old, and it's just the cutest thing. I just had to share it. So we're moving on to page 34. And this is the second part of the real estate sale for the house. We have escrow fees, all the items, and the payoff of the bank loan. And this is another category of expense. It's disbursements on property sale. The conservatee moved out of the house, and you had a consignment commission on selling furniture and things. The rental property expense, I would keep it separate by each of the rental properties. Got loan payment. You notice it's not broken out with principal and interest. And then this is the miscellaneous category disbursements on line 30 or page 37 that shows other expenses, tax repairs, accountants, IRS things due, things that didn't fit into other schedules. I point out some other things when riversideleGalAid.org has the fillable PDF forms, the GC 400 and series, Riverside Legal Aid, and they're all in one place. They're not separate forms, and that might be helpful for you. In our accountings, they talk about standard and simplified accounts. And what that means is simplified account. I've never used one, but if there's very few transactions during the year, like say 6 transactions, you would report it just like a check register. We don't use them, but it is available. I said if there's very few assets, the form on the request and order for waiver of accounting is on a form GC 410 to get out of the accounting requirements. We've talked to probate referees and trying to find out the problems, the things that people do wrong, and some of the more common problems why accountings get kicked out. That you didn't explain how the property purchase affects the ward. So if you bought a hot tub, you think, oh, that's for the guardian to use. No, and you would write it out that the person had a medical prescription, they needed hot water and things of that nature. Or if you bought 20 sets of bed sheets, you should explain that the conservatee is incontinent and how it benefits the ward.
Rex, I'm gonna stop you 1 minute. You said probate referee. You meant to say probate examiner?
That is correct. I said the wrong word. You're reporting to the probate examiners because they're the eyes and ears of the court. And that is who you're talking to with your accounting reports, not the probate referee. That's only used one time. Other errors that come up in accounting is accounting for things you have no responsibility for, confusing responsibility with value, or if you're confusing accountings with other types of accountings like business accountings. If you have real property out of state, it doesn't go into California accounting. It's ignored. Putting assets at their net value is wrong. You don't subtract the mortgages. Big no-no is the fiduciary writing a check to themselves for compensation without court order. Some of the other things.
And Rex, just FYI, it's 11:45.
Okay.
And I still have to do my petition, so you're gonna have to get through the.
I don't have much more. I really don't. The other thing for reference, I point out this fiduciary accounting handbook. It's a thick book from CEB, Continuing Education of the Bar. CEB's in Oakland, California. And if you're doing a lot of accountings, you might want to get it. You won't learn accounting from this book. It's too technical. It's a reference book to solve particular problems, and it's quite pricey. It's about $300 for the book.
What is the book called again?
It's called Fiduciary Accounting Handbook. It's by Margaret Hand, an attorney here in our county, who wrote it. And she took every example that she could think about and did the background research to make it available as a reference book. So I'm going to move along here so we can get through. I'm just about done. 37. Okay, we had a car sale. You just compare the sale price with the carry value, and we have the gain. I hear some background noise. We have, okay, now we're out of the forms, the GC 400D series for disbursements. So before we get to wrap it up. We're out of the disbursements. So that means we go back to page 21 and list all the disbursements that had Schedule C, the losses during the account, and we're done with the disbursement section. Now, if I can find my place. So on page 39, we have, this is the end to wrap it up, the assets on hand at the end of the account period for cash, same format as we used in the beginning. Now we have non-cash assets. We have the carry value and the estimated fair market value. And at that point, we enter in the bottom numbers for the GC 400 sum. That's ending assets, cash, ending assets, non-cash, total assets at the end of the account, and we have the total credit. And your goal is your total charges equals your total credits, so your accounting can get approved. So with that, unless there's any other questions relating to the GC 400 summary of account, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Tamara, who will show you how to do the petition.
Can I ask a quick question?
Okay.
Regarding the cash assets on hand at the end of the account period.
Yes.
For example, if you have like a, you know, an interest-bearing account of some kind, and so, you know, the value changes a little bit from the beginning of the account period. And I know you
Yes.
probably had to file like the interest form, even if it was just a few dollars that came in. And so someone indicated to me at one time that for, maybe this is not a good example, that for something like, let's say, a Mortgage Stanley investment mutual fund account, that instead of trying to account for the fluctuation or speculation in value, you should list the number of shares and show that the number of shares has not changed.
Okay,
Where
so
would you do
you
that?
bring up several issues, one of which is an interest-bearing account, and you report the interest income elsewhere. The cash on hand at the end is the reconciled balance of the date of the account. So the income is reported, the balance changed from the beginning, and that's proper reporting. Now you switch to marketable securities, and it is a good idea to put the number of shares and how many shares you have. And it might be different, like say if you had a different, on asset number 7, if you had marketable securities and dividend reinvestment, the carry value may be higher now, but then you would clarify it by the number of shares now that you purchased during the account period.
Rex, let me take it over because that was really not her question.
Okay.
So I understand your question to be, honey. So your shares remain the same, and your carry value is going to remain the same because they're the same number of shares, right? So your carry value is going to remain the same number that the probate referee valued. Your market value, believe it or not, when you start looking at these stock annuity statements, they will tell you what the value is as of that statement date. So, example, this top shows non-cash assets as of March 7, 2023. So, based on the statement, well, one of the things I will suggest to you is even if you have a year and your appointment was on, let's say, March 8th, remember that was the order, and you're told to do your accounting based on a year, right? I myself will not do an exact year. I'm going to take this ending account period out to March 31st that matches my bank statement, because it is way too difficult for stocks to figure out their value in the middle of a month. So instead of stopping at March 7th, 2013, I will continue it to March 31st, 2013. And then I will look at the bank statement and it will tell me what the market value is at that date. It's not you guessing what the market value is or any other thing. You will see it on the statement. So even if you reinvest dividends, that market value it'll show you. So you don't, market value does not roll over to your accounting number. Market value just says what is it worth today and gives an idea. Carry value is the only thing that rolls over to the GC 400 sum. So it really doesn't matter what your market value totals state, because they don't affect anything. So even if you might be a little wrong what you state your market value is for the shares, nobody's really looking at that. As long as your carry value stays the same, then you'll be able to reconcile imbalance when it goes through. Does that answer your question? Because I think that's what your question was.
That does address my question. I think I was not really clear on the carry value and market value relationship before, because this is the second question I've asked on that topic.
Okay. So again, remember, market value is just giving you an idea of what is it. So if you will look at the form he has up, the carry value shows the value that it was given on March 8th, 2012, the day that we put on the inventory and appraisal.
Yeah.
But because now at the end of the account period, which right now it shows March 7th of 2013, right? A year later,
Right.
The stock value has gone up by almost $3,150, right? So that's all it tells somebody, is that this specific stock to somebody else isn't just losing value like out of nowhere. Like, it's not. What I would be more concerned with if I was reviewing an accounting and I was a beneficiary, if instead you have market value at only 5,695, I'm asking what in the hell Jesus is going on, and how did it go from 92,000 down to 5,000?
Sure.
Maybe you should have sold that stock and reinvested in something that's doing better, right? So really think of the market value as just, it doesn't change and it doesn't go into your accounting balancing numbers. It just gives somebody an idea of what the stuff is worth today. And you'll see once that we go to the petition, which is the next thing to explain to you, that the market value also tells the court, keep this in mind, you had a bond. So all of a sudden now, if your items of assets are now worth so much more, the judge might want to increase your bond based on these market values, because it tells the court, okay, stuff's going up, so I want to make sure I protect all those assets again. I'm going to increase the bond a little bit.
Okay,
Does that make sense if you tie the two together, honey?
Yes, yeah, for sure it does. Thank you.
You know what? I have a quick question. Is it okay then to, like, it says March 7th, and you suggested you would use March 31st. Then no one's going to say, oh, but that's a year plus a few days.
No one cares, honey. So what will happen is your next accounting would start April 1st, 2023, and then it would go specifically 2 years to where you could end on a bank statement. All I'm attempting to do by extend it is going to a full calendar on a bank statement because it's easier for me. It's going to be easier for the court. It's going to be easier for everybody. You have to at least include 1 year, but it doesn't mean you couldn't go further if you just to get to the end of the month. The courts know what you're doing. They see it, hon. A lot of us do it. So they're very used to it, and there's nothing wrong with taking a couple extra days just to end the bank statement so it's easier for you many years going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up my section here very briefly.
You got to share screen because it's 12 o'clock right now.
I'm going to do that. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Tamara to continue on, and I'm going to exit. I have another meeting I have to attend. Excuse me. I just wanted to point out that if anyone has any further questions, you can contact us. My email is info@rexcrandell.com. Our phone number in Walnut Creek is 925-934-6320 or 1-800-464-6595. And I'll be happy to talk to you about wills, trusts, estates, or income tax. So thank you for attending, and I'm giving it back to Tamara to take over the rest of the meeting. Here she is.
Thanks, Rex.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rex.
Okay, let me get you to my screen now. Share. Can everybody see the petition up?
Yes.
We're going to go kind of quick because I know you guys only expected till 12, and I know you got time and I tend to talk a lot, but there's so much information I can give you. Again, I've been doing this a very long time. I am hired by law firms to either review accountings that maybe the opposite side has turned in a probate, or highly technical accountings because I've done them so long. I'm also able to help answer examiner notes if you turn in an accounting something wrong. I want to say at first, before everybody starts exiting, that I'll put in the chat my contact information. I do offer people who attend this class that if you are struggling and you just need a little bit of help, like I'm not sure where to put this item on a schedule, or I've tried to balance, and if I quickly look at it and maybe take less than 30 minutes, I'm happy to do that for you, and I do not charge anything for that. But please, I say this every accounting period and every single time. A couple of days after the accounting, this one lady who did attempt to do her accounting, she did 250 pages and was like, can you review this and tell me if it's correct? No, I cannot, because I'm not allowed to review somebody else's work. I can tell you if it doesn't balance, maybe places that you want to start looking, or maybe to help you that maybe I see your INA and your starting assets don't calculate properly or something like that. But please don't send me 250 pages and ask, oh, can you help me review this? One, it shouldn't be that long. Even with, and I'm talking, I've done 10 and $15 million estate accountings. I might have 90 some pages, or most of mine, if there's a whole lot of stock transfers, that's where you're going to have a problem, is stock accounts. Accountings are very difficult for stock accounts. Those are much bigger pages, but your accounting really should only be about 10, 15 pages at most. So I'll start there. But if you do need assistance or you do need to ask a quick question or something like that, I prefer you email me as opposed to calling, because I'm usually in tons of meetings, or I have quite a lot going on because I'm also a paralegal for 22 attorneys that do probate. So, but emails I typically will look at and answer pretty quickly and say, okay, send me over this or do it this way or that way. So I just wanted to tell you, I'll put my contact information in the chat and you can gather it from there. But what we're going to do now is once you've completed your accounting, you cannot just turn that accounting into the court by itself. You cannot. It will be rejected. The court won't even know what you're turning in, and they will not accept it. The only way you can submit an accounting that you've completed is by attaching it to a petition to tell the court what you've done during that year time frame and what do you want the court to do. You want them to approve it. 2, you want them to pay your fees if you're taking any, and so on and so forth. So we're going to go through how to do a petition for the approval of your accounting that you must do. Okay. It's done on pleading paper, which just means it's numbered along the side. If you don't have pleading paper, you can go online and type in Google pleading paper, and you'll get several word versions or whatever. You may use those. You should make sure that typically, yes, your data is not going to line up per these lines. As you will see, my attorney line is in between 4 and 5. Please don't concern yourself with that. The data is most important. If it doesn't line up, screw it. Don't worry about it. I like to do mine in some use for paragraphing 1.5. I do 2 because it just is easier to read. But just don't do it single line, please, because that's way too difficult for anybody. Plus, most of us that are reviewing it are old, and I would have to get 2 sets of glasses to review it on single line. So please don't do that. But you will put your date up here, so it's the same caption as if you're doing the inventory and appraisal, right? You're going to put your data, not the attorney. Attorney for, you will write those words, but you will put yourself conservator, or you could put yourself pro per, comma, conservator, or put yourself, comma, administrator pro per. Indicate to the court, pro per tells the court you did this yourself. This is not an attorney who prepared this document for you. You'll go down a couple lines and you'll want to, I do mine a little bit different. I put Superior Court of California. County goes on the next line, so I don't run mine like this. I'll put the county on its own separate line. In this case, this sample will conservatorship of the person. Doesn't matter, you don't need an accounting, but in this case, this person was of the person and the estate. You might only be conservator of the estate. If it's a decedent's accounting, probate accounting, usually I will put, do I use in re, or which is IN and then RE and then the name and decedent, or estate of, where I would just put estate of for a probate, the decedent, and then decedent down here. With a minor, you would put guardianship of person and estate, or guardianship of the estate, and then the person's name. So make sure this caption tells what you have been appointed. Marie, honey, in your case, you wouldn't do this because you would only be conservator of the person. But if you later went and got conservatorship of the estate, you would be the conservatorship of the person and estate. Does that make sense, honey?
Yeah, it does, except for I do manage his money and I do reimburse myself. If I buy his clothes at Macy's for something, I do then keep the receipt and I reimburse myself out of his funds because I'm a representative.
But sweetheart, if the court hasn't appointed you in that position, then you don't need to account to the court.
Okay.
So that's the big difference.
I know. I was just worried that there's another law somewhere that I'm not seeing, that I'm missing. Okay.
I can't tell you that, sweetheart. I'm not
Got
an
it.
attorney, so I can't talk about law
Right.
in that situation.
Okay.
So again, this is your caption, your account number. I leave a separate line. I never combine like this. So, but this, you will tell the court what this document is. In this case, it's the first account, which is current, meaning probate, you would just put first account, right? Because current doesn't mean anything. Current means you're going to be responsible for accountings later on. With probate, you only do one accounting, first account and petition for final distribution. So please don't follow this caption for a probate. It is going to be a totally different caption. This is only conservatorship or guardianship. This could be your second account. It could be your third account. It could be your fourth, on and on. You get the point. It's the report of the conservator. If it's guardianship, report of guardianship. Petition for settlement. In this case, the sample Rex gave, it was the approval of a sale of a depreciating asset, which was the vehicle. Allowance of conservator's fees. So if you're going to request conservator fees, you're entitled to it. Typically, if it's your son, your mother, something like that, typically conservators don't request a fee, but you're entitled to it. So you do not feel guilty about it. You're doing a lot of work. That's what I'm saying. And attorney, if you paid an attorney and you're still a proper, you wouldn't be completing this, but our sample shows it. And say you wanted reimbursed for expenses, you would add and reimbursement to conservator for expenses paid or something of that nature. You need to make sure you include all of that in this caption. Date of hearing, you will leave that blank. You will not know the date of hearing, regardless if you have a hearing date already set by the court, because maybe you failed to turn in this accounting on time, and maybe the court issued an OSC, which is called an order to show cause. They're going to issue that stating you're really late on turning your accounting in. Why should I not remove you as the conservator, or why should I not fine you or penalize you for not doing a job you're supposed to do? Now, if you have an OSC, it happens all the time. If you have an OSC hearing already on calendar, you do not use that OSC date here. You would still leave this blank because it will get its own court date. You will leave the time blank. You can put in the department because you know what department you're in already. And I never put the judicial officer. That's because you cannot guarantee that the Honorable Michael will be your judge the day you appear. Maybe Michael had a family emergency and you have a pro tem or a pro tem serving as a judge. Maybe it's not a honorable judge, maybe it's a commissioner that will hear your case. In that case, putting honorable before their name would be inaccurate. So I don't include this here in this line. Once you submit this petition to the court, once you're done, the court will automatically put a hearing date here. They'll put the time here, and then that will be your trigger, because you'll get a copy back, to issue a notice of hearing to parties and so on and so forth. You'll get all that yourself. But let's continue on with the petition real quickly. You're going to state you are the petitioner, and you will technically copy your caption here. You will copy that all down here and repeat the exact words that you included in your caption. The last line item should state that you respectfully are stating these following comments. That's what this means. So that stays. One, you're going to tell the court your appointment date. Do not ever assume the court knows your appointment date because that judge appointed you on that date. Your papers must stand on their own, which means that you must include all data on this petition to the judge. Don't tell the judge to go look in my file. Don't tell the judge, that judge, you tell him to go look in your file and watch the look you'll get on that judge's face the next hearing. No, please don't do that. So you're going to tell him when you were appointed. So petitioner was appointed on March 8th. Right? Letters were issued on March 14th. See the difference in date, likely because of a bond. And at all times, your appointment has remained in full effect. You haven't been removed. You haven't been asked, you haven't been temporarily removed because you didn't do an accounting or whatever. You're still appointed. So the judge now knows, okay, I appointed you on March 8th. I want to see your inventory and appraisal says what date? March 8th. And I want to see your accounting starts on what date, guys?
March 8th.
Yay! Your account. So look at all of this that must coordinate, right? Okay, so inventory and appraisal. I did an inventory and appraisal and I filed it on what date? Perfect. It showed a total value of this. See this beautiful number? What do you think's going to happen when they look at this number? The first thing they're going to go to is they're going to go to your assets on hand at the beginning of your account period on the GC 400 sum form. Guess what that number better match? Because if it doesn't, first thing they're going to go is, I don't even need to read the rest of it. Deficiency, your inventory and appraisal doesn't match what you state on your petition or something like that. They'll ask for you to do a verified declaration to correct that or state why it's different or something like that. So remember, these things can all be verified and they will go back and check your numbers that you're stating. Number 3, your period of account. I don't put mine like this. My petitions look a little different than this, but this is our sample. So the account covers March 8th. Again, see how beautifully that this March 8th number matches this March 8th number when you were appointed? Yes, great. and your ending date is this day. Remember, if you do as I do and extend your accounting out, it would be March 31st, right? You would put that in. Charges and credits, you can just repeat this line item. There's nothing to it, but it is what it is. Authorized investments. Remember, you must, if you're in a conservatorship or have a conservatorship account, even probate and guardianship, the accounts must be interest bearing. If you get appointed a conservatorship, right, and you look at the bank accounts because you open the mail, you see she has a checking account, and your job is to inquire with that bank, hey, can you tell me if this is an interest bearing account or not? If they say no, it's not, immediately that's your sign. Okay, I need to open up a new bank account, a new conservatorship, a bank account. It must be interest bearing, and I want the money moved from that account to the interest bearing account. Here's the thing that's happened. There's been a court case I worked on, or I knew about just years ago, way when we first started teaching the accounting class, where the conservator did not put the money in an interest bearing account. And by the time it was time to distribute, one of the beneficiaries accused the conservator of, let's say, not gaining him all of this interest that he would have gained had it been in an interest bearing account. So the beneficiary told the court that I want you to charge the conservator all of the funds I should have got if it was in an interest bearing account. Say that's $5,000. Say that's more than that if you have a pretty high value case. Sheila, I think you're on speak, or somebody's talking on speaker, sorry. So remember that you must have an interest bearing account. Do you know that that conservator had to pay that beneficiary the interest that the account did not receive because she did not put it in an interest bearing account? So be careful with that. Make sure it's interest bearing. You can repeat this statement. Statement of liabilities, you can repeat this statement. Basically, this would only be if you learned that one of the properties had a lien, somebody filed a lien on the property because maybe they had solar panels installed and didn't make payments on that solar panels. Then that company who owns the solar panels would have gone to court and asked to put a lien on the property so that if it's ever sold, the solar panel people are paid first, right? But 9 times out of 10, just repeat this statement. There was only in this case, okay, the sale of an automobile. In my example, there was a sale of an automobile. If you don't have the sale of an automobile, please don't put this in. Please skip it. But when I say skip, don't skip any other items. I will tell you which ones you can skip. I had one accounting that I reviewed after the fact. She turned in, and I wasn't clear about skipping, and she skipped 3, 4, 5, 6, didn't want to add a 7, 8, and like barely had 2 items on her petition. I'm like, oh, honey, I didn't say skip all of those. Those you have to have. Only skip specific things in my sample, like the sale of an automobile. But if you did sell an item, or maybe you didn't sell it, maybe you donated it, the furniture, maybe you donated the furniture because it wasn't worth a storage unit and nobody else wanted it of the beneficiaries. So you decided to donate it. Then it would be donated furniture and fixtures or whatever you want to say, okay? But in this case, I want to report hey, Your Honor, I, the conservator, the car was an item, although it wasn't in my sample, but in this case, I'm stating on my inventory and appraisal attachment 2. Why? Because a car is not cash, so it goes on attachment 2. I don't put item numbers or line numbers for a loss of sale. And I request, Your Honor, court, judge, whoever, to confirm what I did was okay. What that does is that releases you from liability. Once the court approves that sale, you can't be held responsible. So if later a beneficiary comes back and says, hey, I want that one vehicle that was in the yard. It was a Mustang. It was old, and now I want it. And here the conservator sold it without my permission. I want her now to reimburse me the cost of that vehicle. You go, the court actually would be the one to answer, but they would say, I'm sorry, I approved it. You had no objection. I gave you plenty of time. You didn't object. It's too late now. I confirmed it. So that's what you're doing by listing it. You're getting the judge to confirm he approves that you sold this vehicle, and it releases your liability and puts the liability on the court. Okay? Same thing with sale of furniture. I'm not going to go through that. I'm going to try and go fast. There was a sale of the vacation home. Again, I'm not going to go through that. Very similar to above. I don't put additional bond. I just put actually bond. Sorry, I'm looking at other things. In this case, this person already knew because they sold a house and they increase their cash now by a whole lot by selling real property, which typically has a high dollar value. This person went ahead, and because they knew they received more cash, they increased their bond on their own. So this is just them telling the court that they increased it on their own. Otherwise, typically I'll just put the words bond, and I don't remember if it comes up later or not, but I'll just put bond at the time of appointment. The court issued bond of $20,000. I now have more cash. If the court requests of me, I will increase the bond amount or something like that. Okay, number 11, you must include on every petition, very important. You must state if you paid anybody that had a relationship to you. You could also be a relationship to the conservator if that's your mom or your grandma or your auntie or whatever. What is the important of this and what does it really mean? I typically give the same example. I'm a conservator, and the conservatee owned a house that has an HOA. If you know anything about HOAs, they are very specific that the yard has to look beautiful at all times. It has to be watered. It has to be landscaped. It's got to be pristine. There can't be garbage in the driveway, whatever the case may be, right? Well, my landscaper, or the landscaper that the conservatee had always used, wants to go on vacation for a month. Maybe they're going back home to visit family. Doesn't matter what they're doing. That's none of your concern. All you know is they told you they're going to be gone for a month. Well, that landscaper used to come every week, right? So now me as the conservator, I've got to figure out somebody still has to go to that house every week or at least every 2 weeks and maintain that yard, or the conservatee is going to get a letter from the homeowners association that says, what are you doing? This yard's a mess. Like, clean it now or you're gonna, whatever the fine may be, right? So I'm going, oh Jesus, I got to find a landscaper. I can't find one on such short notice. But guess what? My beautiful son came home from college and he's on summer break. And I say, son, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go mow these lawns. I need you to take a blower. I need you, to go just to make it look clean for me. And because you're here on vacation from school, and I know you're at school and you need to buy books, I'll pay you, even though I only used to pay the gardener who came every week $50 every week that he came. I'll give you $100 for doing it. He says, great, I'm doing it. I'm gonna go out and do it. Guess what happened, or what I just did? I'm in trouble because I enhanced my son, my own personal son, and I paid my son more than I would pay a regular gardener. It doesn't matter that I'm able to get him last minute. It doesn't matter anything like that. I can only pay my child, he's related to me, I can only pay what I would have paid the same gardener, right? Or what I pay the regular gardener. It's the problem comes when you increase the amount than what you would pay a regular gardener. Or say I called another landscape company and I said, hey, real quick, I need you to see if you can do this. What would be your fee? And maybe they say their fee is $70 and I only used to pay 50. Then I could hire my son at that 70 because maybe they tell me, hey, I can't do it. It's too short notice. I got a full schedule. I don't have anybody available. I can pay my son the 70 because I got that total from another company I called, and that's what they would use. Then I'm okay as long as I report it right here. Otherwise, I'm in trouble, right? So in that case, I'd say during the account period, I did hire my son because I needed a landscaper. I called several other landscaping companies last minute and they said they would do it for 70 an hour, but they didn't have time on their schedule. So I hired my son and I paid him 70 an hour. Now, fine, you're good. But you have to lay that out to the court and tell them that you did that because you enhanced your son. So that's really kind of what this statement means right here. It could be you ask your daughter to help you clean out mom's house because she's a hoarder and you just can't take it anymore. And so maybe you ask your daughter to come in and clean it out. But your daughter goes, if I'm doing this, shoot, it's going to be 10 grand. I ain't doing it for nothing less. You cannot do that. Like, you would have to go out and hire another cleaning service or somebody else to do it. You can't do it just because it's your daughter and you want to pay her 10 grand. So just be very mindful and careful of that. But admit if you hire somebody that's of a relationship. And I'll give one more example would be, say I had a conservator and his wife was a real estate agent. They needed to sell the conservatee's house because she was never going back and she needed money for the care facility. So they had to sell the house. And he actually hired his wife to sell, perfectly fine. All we did was disclose that wife was a realtor. She got paid the same fee any other realtor would have been paid. So she didn't experience anything different than she would have experienced by somebody she didn't know or wasn't related. She didn't get extra money or anything of that. You just have to record it. Any quick questions? Because I got a few more to go through them, and I'm going to go quite quick because it's 12:30. And if you have to leave, I understand. I'm going to go till I finish. Those who wish to say may, those who cannot maybe attend a second class, but I kind of typically, you can see how this always runs over because there's so much information to give.
I did have one quick question.
Go for it, honey.
As far as for my probate case, I've already submitted a petition for final distribution. I was missing the accounting and a few other things, but they told me I don't have to resubmit a petition for final distribution. I just go straight to the order and put the accounting with it.
Okay.
Is this something separate that I should do to present with the accounting, or is what I already have okay?
I would say follow what your court order or your court examiner or whoever gave you those instructions. I would say follow those instructions.
Okay, thank you.
And I just have another quick question. So
Yes, hon.
essentially, everything we've done today, I don't know if for conservatorship of person only, I don't know if any of this I'm doing.
None of this applies to you.
Okay.
None of this, nothing in this class applies to you.
Okay, thank you.
But if you do a probate or something later for a different family member or somebody else, you're going to learn because you got to do this one. Okay, continuing on. Conservatorship compensation. I remember you can never be paid until you have a court order. In this case, you would indicate that you spent, how many hours did you spend? I don't know, providing services to the conservatee, who is your mother. You visited the facility. You make at least once a week or once a month. You made sure she's receiving proper care. Her personal needs are met. You marshaled all the assets. You paid the bills. You managed the estate frugally. You arranged for the sale of the automobile, which she can't no longer drive. You listed the house for sale. Maybe you went to Costco and bought incontinence. You made sure the landscaper is coming every week. You had to hire a new landscaper. You could have a million different examples that I couldn't come up with of what you did. Do not make this a huge paragraph. Keep it pretty low because you have the opportunity to either include a invoice behind as an attachment, or you can wait till the court asks you. Just give a brief summary of really the most important things that you accomplished, but total hours is important. Let me say that Contra Costa Superior Court used to have within their local court rules what they feel is a reasonable, let's use this word reasonable, amount to pay conservators hourly for whatever work they do. It used to be $50 an hour for a non-professional fiduciary. Fiduciaries who are licensed, licensed is a huge word, and we had somebody attend who was going through that licensing. They are allowed to charge more because they have a license. But you are considered a non-professional fiduciary, and typically that rate of pay, which I like to use, is 50 per hour. That's 50 per hour. That doesn't mean you have to charge that amount. You can charge less than that. But I would caution about going over. Sometimes people like to say, well, I think I deserve 75 an hour. Well, that's great. And I say, yes, sure, you can ask, but you might not get it. I don't know. I'm not the judge. I'm not even close to being a judge. So if you want to put that in, great, you put that in and see if the judge will go for it. Just remember, especially if you're doing this for your mom, you're taking money away from mom. And so, depends how much funds, if she's got a smaller amount of funds, you might not want to charge mom $10,000 and she only has maybe 40 or 50 in her bank account, because the court's going to go, that's a bit much. So be reasonable in that case, but you are entitled and should not feel bad, especially if maybe you had to take a few days off from work and you didn't get paid for those days or something like that. This is a good way to reimburse yourself, or days you had to take off from work because you had to attend court. That's very important. Reimburse yourself. So don't feel bad about being reimbursed or asking for fees, but don't be too egregious either. That's typically what I say to people. So in this case, for 150 hours, obviously they only wanted $500. You can tell that's probably a very small hourly rate, but that's what he felt he wanted to be reimbursed for, and great. So and then he even states here, I know it's a reasonable and nominal sum, but I should be compensated for missing work to attend court hearings, right? So that's exactly what it is. If you're going to pay an attorney, you would have to indicate this here. If you're not paying an attorney, I still indicate attorney compensation and will write, conservator did not have the funds to hire an attorney, so no attorney compensation is requested. Okay? Or you could follow this here. I'm going to keep going down. Very important. You must, let me use the words again, must include if the conservatee is receiving veteran benefits. You must indicate yes or no. You are either going to indicate the conservatee is receiving money or is not, but one of those two you will include. State hospital must include this. You are going to state whether this conservatee is currently a patient in or on leave of absence from a state hospital. Many things that could mean. Many things that can mean. So make sure you indicate that. You're either going to say has been a patient, is a patient, or has not been a patient. 3 words, but you will include the statement, or the examiners will come back and say, hold on, wait a minute, you need to file a verified declaration regarding state hospital, blah, blah, blah. Okay, conservatee's address. I'm typically a little shy on the indicating public information where the conservatee lives, but if it's the case that it's a hospital or a care home or a facility that's big, they're not going to just allow anybody to come in and so on and so forth. They have their safeguards. If the conservatee resides at their residence, I don't like to say that. I will typically say something like conservatee resides at the same address as has been provided to the court earlier or something like that. And I know the court just wants to make sure the court knows where that person is. But they will know that because the court will hire other professionals on the outside to take reports also, so they have to know. Number 17 has to stay in. It's called account statements. You are responsible for filing the bank statements that match your accounting. So you must file all bank statements. If you have 5 checking accounts, you will file 5 different statement accounts showing the balance on the beginning of your account period and the end of your account period. You typically do not need to include statements in between Some counties or some courts do want all statements in between. So, but most only want to see your starting balance and your ending balance. Because what do you think they're going to go do? They're going to go to your accounting and say, oh, your starting balance is correct, your ending balance is correct. If you receive statements from online or any other way that you receive statements, you are not allowed to turn those statements into the court. You must go to the bank, ask the bank to print the statements, and then put some type of stamp, their bank stamp on it, showing that the statement came from the bank. Here's the reason why. PDFs. If you download a bank statement from a bank, it turns it into a PDF. I guarantee you, I know how to manipulate any PDF that comes in front of me. That would include changing balance numbers. That would include if I wrote a check for $25,000 and I only want you to think I wrote a check for $250, I guarantee I can change that on a PDF and you won't even be able to see I changed that on a PDF. So that is the purpose that you must turn in bank statements that either come from the bank or the original ones with the logo and all that, or you ask the bank to print a bank statement and put their logo or their stamp or whatever on it that they printed it. Turn it into the court.
About that?
I'm sorry, one more time, honey.
Can I ask a quick question, please?
Yes, a little bit louder for me, though.
Sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
So I previously did have only the electronic statements, and I printed them out, and I put with a declaration saying like true and correct copies, have been included, and the court did accept that. Do you think that if they will continue, or has there been a change in the rule?
It really depends on the court, sweetheart, and you'll really know that it depends. So if your petition hasn't been heard or approved yet by the court, they may ask
it has been.
Perfect. Then I would keep doing it the way you're doing it and you are allowed. But many courts do not allow that. They will say, I want to see it coming from the bank. Because they know, just like I do, anybody can manipulate a PDF. Anybody.
Yeah.
If you have the right skills and know how to do that, right? But you keep doing what you've been doing, and until they ask for originals or until they ask for some type of stamp from the bank, keep doing what you're doing. But that does not apply to all courts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do not attach your bank statements to this petition, please, 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 please. There is a separate, and you have it in your materials, I won't go to it, but there is a separate document that is done on pleading paper that says confidential bank statements. And then you attach to the court your bank statements behind that cover page. That tells the court, do not put these bank statements online so anybody else can go online and get them. Do not allow or show these bank statements to other people. And in fact, I think it was Riverside lately I tried to submit with my cover page and they said, no, I don't want it like that. I had to fill out their own local form, and it was boxed 3 pages, and I had to state if I redacted anything or if I did this or if I changed that or what I was including. Is this all of it? Is this partial? It was so many questions. I was like, are you kidding me right now? But make sure you follow how your court wants things submitted. Capital changes. The only big thing about this one should be included. Most of the time, I'm stating there were no capital changes. Capital changes is more if I needed to liquidate the annuity account, which is a stock account, and I had to take a whole lot of stocks out for some reason because I needed them for cash to maybe pay for a facility or something like that, monthly facility charges. I would indicate I had to sell stock, but you would add that there. Statement of liabilities, I typically, unless you positively know that you pay a mortgage on the real property, you might want to say how much that mortgage is and the monthly payments you make. I don't include the interest rate and the balloons and all of that because most of the time I don't even know that information. Um, Lastly, we're getting towards the end, I promise, guys. Lastly, there's a few things missing out of here. You would want to include a number that says parties entitled to notice. You will want to make sure you list the name, the relationship, and the address of that person. So, say for instance, when you completed your petition, you listed all grandkids, brothers and sisters, and aunts and uncles, and who knows who you listed, right? You need to relist all those people and state their name, what their relationship is, so grandchild, aunt, uncle, whatever their relationship is, and their name of address, and separate them and have that go through. Otherwise, you will get an examiner note that says you need to complete a verified declaration stating this, right? So don't be concerned if you get those notes. They're really not that difficult. And again, if for some reason you're having a hard time, if it's one question, you can call and ask me. I do not charge. If it's the whole thing and you've got 10 different things you have to answer, or you call and wish me to help you answer those questions, then I would need to charge my hourly rate. Because you could imagine, I run a business. If I had everybody calling me all day long with questions, I'd never get work done, right? So I need to be able to pay my own bills. So that's why I would have to charge. Okay, request for special notice. What that means is anybody is allowed to pay $40 and go to the courthouse and say, guess what? I want copies of everything that's filed on this case. I want copies. I want to be sent every single notice, every single hearing, every single petition, every single document you file on the case. I want a copy of it. I don't have to be related. I don't have to be a family member. I don't even have to say why I want the information. I can pay $40. I can go to the courthouse and I can say I want copies of all these documents. What that means is you will get notice that a filing has taken place because that person also has to send you, the administrator or conservator or guardian, a copy, and it's called a request for special notice. So if you get those copies, you will need to indicate here on the petition that maybe Franchise Tax Board filed a request for special notice. That's very typical in probates, especially if the decedent owed back taxes. It could be creditors who maybe the decedent owed credit card bills and they filed a creditor claim. They will also file a request for special notice. Many reasons people could file requests for special notice, right? But a lot of times they don't. So the majority of the time you're going to indicate there was no request for special notice filed, or you're going to say, yes, I am aware of a request for special notice being filed. You will put the name and address, and you will make sure they will be noticed when you do the
May
petition.
I ask a quick question?
Yes, son, go for it.
Is there a special notice in a trust if the property is put into goes through a trust to court?
Well, it depends. If the trust was contested and it is in probate court, meaning a judge, you have hearings and the judge remains active on the case and there's a request for special notice, yes, you must do this and send this petition. But if you're only doing a trust, it's outside of the court and you're just administering it, you don't need to be concerned with this petition at all. You must still do an accounting, but you will only mail that accounting to all the beneficiaries. And there is a separate notice you'll want to look up for trusts that you notify the beneficiaries they have a certain time frame to contest this accounting, otherwise they're waiving their rights to contest it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and the thing about that, I don't want to keep you long. I knew someone that had property. The property was in the trust. The family members started going backwards and forth. They had to go to court. So, and it was a trust. So usually you don't show anything in the trust. So they had to go to court. So at this time, since it went to court, does that make it public knowledge that I can go and pay $40 to see?
They can if they wish to. If it's now, I can't talk specific about your case because I'm not an attorney. That would be UPL. So I'm just going to say any case that is in the court, any case that is in the court in the probate division, which is all we're talking about here.
Yes.
You are allowed to go file with the court a request for special notice, pay $40. It might be $40.50, which is odd, but it's somewhere around that number, and that it could increase by a couple of dollars. But anyway, it's around that $40 fee. Anybody can go file and pay the fee and be sent all the documents. Anybody.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Thank you. That's good information. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, we're almost done. I promise you guys. We're down to the prayer. I've stated now everything I want the court to know, and I'm down to the prayer. Everybody laughs when I say prayer, or they're thinking it's a religious thing. This is not a religious word in this context. It's a prayer to the court. Please do me a favor and approve this. Or it's more of a respect wording and not a religious wording. So when I say prayer or praise, like you'll see in the sample, please do not consider that tying to any religion, religious belief. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with it. It's only respect for the judge. So I'm going to type wherefore conservator, and in this case praise, or and typically you'll have a heading I put in the center that says prayer. It's just a quick indication to the judge, what do I want the judge to do with my stuff now? I told my story, I'm turning in my accounting. What do I want the judge to do, right? So the first thing I'm going to ask is for the account to be approved. What do you know? The second thing I'm going to ask is I want the acts, which meant the sale of the automobile, the sale of the vacation home, approved. And typically I'll specify all that separately. So this number 2 seems a little odd to me or out of place. But number 3, here we go with it. I want the sale of the automobile approved. I want the sale of the furniture approved, right? I stated all this above. I want to be paid $500. Remember that section where it asks for compensation? Again, if you're not asking for these things, You didn't sell an automobile. Do not put number 3 in here. Leave it off. If you did not sell furniture, if you did not sell a doggone thing, skip 3 and 4. Don't put it in here. But if you did, it might not be an automobile. It might be dishes. It might be musical instruments. I get all kinds of stuff. So it could be something else. Substitute the wording. Okay. Then upon settlement, this is where I'm asking for the attorney to be paid. If you did not hire an attorney, do not include this line item in here, right? Oh, sorry, that's number 6. Back up to number 5, you're asking for compensation. You would include that there. But now, if you didn't have 3 and 4, this number 5 might be your number 3, right? Just slide the numbers up and go in order. 6 may or may not be here. If you didn't hire an attorney, you're not going to ask to pay one, right? So skip that part. Then you always want to include that the court can grant any other relief that they deem proper. Really, all I'm doing is saying, Judge, I respect all of your decisions, and if you want to add anything more that I haven't listed, feel free. That's all that sentence says. Then you'll date it. Now, you're going to, if you're pro per and no attorney, this is filled out as if it's an attorney, you would just do your name and conservator. I would kind of put comma pro per. You will not include a signature line. And in fact, this is really wrong to begin with, because if an attorney completes this form, the attorney is what signs up here, and then you only sign the verification. So again, this is in the wrong place if you're an attorney filling it out, but skip it, leave it off. Don't put it on there. You will just have your name as conservator. Now, remember the whole time I've been talking about the court examiner may say you need to complete a verified declaration, and I've used that word many, many times on repeat. What does that mean? This is a verification, meaning you did the declaration above, you're declaring or answering questions. Now you're signing a verification. So if you don't put this verification in on your petition, the court will not even look at this petition. They'll say you need to file a verified declaration. This is what they mean, that you didn't include these specific words, and it's very specific. So I am the conservator of the person in this state. You might, again, whatever your title is what you should have here. This account includes all the schedules, blah, blah, blah. I declare under penalty and perjury everything is true and correct. You're going to date it, should be the same date as what you signed up here. As what you signed up here, and then you are going to sign it again here. This is the verification. Now, there will be one other document I'm going to go through. Let's see if I don't see it here. I don't see it. Is you will also include as the next page, everything on this page will be blank. And I go back down to about line 25. You could do it at 24. And I type in big, big letters using about 18, no, maybe it's higher, at least maybe like 24 or 26 font size. And I will type Exhibit A or Exhibit 1 if you like using numbers instead of letters. It doesn't matter which one you use as long as you're consistent. So Exhibit A would be what the accounting, so I'd have a blank form, and then it'll just read Exhibit A, and behind that page will be my accounting, which starts with the GC 400 and all the schedules. So this would go behind it. This document right here, which is an example, is the confidential cover page document. Whether you use it or not is good. And then one last thing that I don't have time to teach, as you can see with our class, is after you submit the petition and your accounting, of course, there's other things you have to do, a notice of hearing, and provide everybody a copy with this petition and the accounting. And then there's one more thing called the order, because as you notice here on this petition, a judge can't sign anywhere. Where's the line for the judge to approve this? You've asked the judge to approve it, but there's no line. That has to be an order. So what happens, and I will just state it really quickly, is up top here, instead of, I'm so sorry, instead of, I lost my place. Sorry. Here, instead of this saying petition or first account, it'll just state order regarding my first account. I repeat a lot of what's here, the appointment, and even some of this part. And down here, when I get to my prayer, sorry, I don't state things. I will state something like, say, I'm paying compensation. Petitioner is allowed to pay himself $500 as compensation for his services during this account period. Petitioner or the furniture and furnishings sold by the conservatee is confirmed for the amount of $5,000. The sale of the conservatee's vehicle is confirmed at the loss. And then I'll leave the date open, I'll leave the line open, and then I'll put judge, or I'll leave a blank line here so the judge can write his name in or her name in, and then it already has judge here. And the order is what will be signed by the court. Then once you have that order, you're allowed to pay yourself. There are other things you may want to ask for in the petition, and again, I'll be real quick on that. Say, for instance, and especially if you're taking care of a conservatee that's your daughter, and maybe you want to charge them rent because they get plenty of funds, you may ask for certain dollar amounts. Like, for instance, say the court orders the conservatee's fees in a blocked account, but you need money to pay for the living facility. A lot of times what will happen is a pro per cannot get a bond for more than $20,000, because in California, a bond company cannot issue a pro per a bond for a bond more than $20,000. So if somebody is ordered by the court to have a bond of more than $20,000, we get kind of creative a little bit in saying, okay, I can't afford an attorney. I need to do this myself, and I can't get a bond for more than 20,000. So how about I take the cash and I only keep $20,000 of cash that I have control of, so my bond now is fine. And if the conservatee has $300,000 of other cash, put it in a blocked account that I can't touch it. And then I can still keep my bond for $20,000. You know, there's other things. say that was the case, and I have that in many of my cases. So what I do every time I request a petition from the court, I'll say, Judge, please allow us 6 months worth of fees to pay the care facility, so that I don't have to every single month do what's called a petition to withdraw funds from a blocked account. And typically the court will agree to that and say, sure, and then I'll get permission to transfer money out of a blocked account to at least pay 6 months worth of a care facility that my 20,000 won't cover. And if any of you know and have put somebody in a care facility, it starts at $10,000 and they go up to $20,000 a month depending on care. So prepare for that, like, and do things of that nature. Or say I have another person where he charges his son a certain amount for rent and utilities. Every time he files, every 2 years he files in accounting, he asks for an inflation rate. Hey, it's not me, I know it's his son, but he'll say, due to inflation, I want rent to increase a little bit and by this number, and I want utilities I want to be reimbursed utilities on maybe 300 a month instead of only 150. Whatever you request, you get to request it, but those are things you may want to put here. Or maybe you're fronting too much money. Well, at this point, you really wouldn't be fronting money. Say you know the conservatee has to have a specific operation and your regular accounting or your regular fees don't cover that, and you have money in a stock market or something, or you need to sell a house because maybe a foot surgery is going to cost, the copay or something's $10,000, and you don't want to use the funds that you use regularly to pay for the care facility. So you'll ask the court for permission ahead of time to take those funds from the blocked account, put them in because she's going to have this surgery. So little things like that, if you know ahead of time, you can ask in this petition. Otherwise, if things come up and you're in between accountings, you have to file and pay for a different type of petition that's the court hears and approves before you can do anything. Does all that make sense? And then lastly, I'm going to want to hear, what do you think about the class? I know it's so much information. We try our best. Look, I went over an hour, but I really felt the information was important. I just want a little bit of feedback. After questions, I want questions first. Oh, I see a chat. So questions first.
Yes,
Go ahead, honey.
I have a few questions just to clarify some things I'm wondering. For my specific probate case, um, in the GC schedules, when it got down to C, once again, if I don't have some of those, I only use the schedules that I have something to put on.
Yes, ma'am, honey. The rest you'll just put, I myself put dashes through, or will put 0 depending on, what you want to do. And I do not include, that's just wasting paper and really filling the courts with a petition, an accounting that's got what, 10 blank pages. That
Right.
does you nothing, sweetheart.
And for these pages are the only things I need to submit, or I was seeing that I need to like present like an Excel sheet or some type of something else along with these sheets. Is that correct?
Well, sometimes I do my accountings a little tiny bit different than that. I use another form or schedule called the change in form, and that's at the end of my accountings. And what I use that form on is, say for instance, I'm transferring $5,000 from one bank account that's already on my accounting, and I'm transferring it from one bank, maybe it's the savings, to the checking account. You do not record that as an item of a receipt or a distribution. You don't record that at all. So what I use the change in form schedule for is, I like to indicate, on this date, I transferred my, $5,000 from savings account to checking account. Then I'll come down a couple lines, I'll have the title savings, and then I'll repeat that. On this date, I transferred $5,000 to the checking account, and other things that you could record on that change in form is, like, dividend reinvestments. When we reinvest dividends, you don't really record that anywhere. I like to put it on my change in form that says, I now bought $100 worth of Apple stock. So I bought 15 shares at, God, what would that be per share? Whatever the $10, no, that'd be a share, and list a total. Because what I also do is I use that change in form schedule to, when I get to my assets at my end and I have to come up with my carry value. Remember, Rex briefly discussed that, but what I do is I go to my change in form and I go, okay, I bought 20 shares of Apple I need to add now to my ending assets, and I bought them at this dollar amount, this dollar amount, this dollar amount. I'll add those all up and I'll add it to my carry value. That's my easy way of knowing. Whereas, like Rex said, don't do that. Just tell them to put it in cash. And then when you get to a $10,000 in cash, make them one time buy the investments. My clients don't do that. It's monthly, they'll reinvest the dividends. So I want to know how my carry value is going to change and how I'm going to do all that. And so by recording those transactions on what's called a change in form, um, it's easy for me. Now, the change in form is not required to be filed with the court accountings, but it can be filed. And I like to include mine because that means everybody who looks at the accounting can tell what I'm doing and where I'm doing it, because I've listed everything on some form.
Okay, so I'm supposed to include some type of spreadsheet or something along with the court forms that we went through today.
Only if you had something like that and you want to be a lot more. I'm just very tedious in the things
Right,
that I
so
do,
like I'm
right?
for my case, there's no cash assets, but it's the house. I'm executor, so I'm taking care of the mortgage, the utilities, anything that has to do with the house. So all of that is coming out of my personal money. And so I'm making sure I'm getting that information and putting it on the forms and also having like a ledger, some type of way to include with that.
That's totally different, honey. What I would do is well, one of the things that's going to be a huge determination is, like, would be, are you the beneficiary of that real property? If you are, there's no reason to really keep those expenses. If you're
Right. There's
not
there's mul there's multiple of us
okay,
and they
so
and
then,
the other ones didn't sign a waiver, so they want the accounting. So
correct. So all the expenses, me personally, if this was my case, okay, I'm not giving you legal advice, I'm just saying you can think about this. If this was my probate or my mother's probate and I was doing it and there is no cash, but I had a bunch of expenses where I'm paying mortgage, I'm paying all this stuff and no other beneficiary is. I would do a separate expense report, an Excel expense report that says on this date I paid the mortgage company the amount of this amount. I total it up and I would include that expense report on this petition under where I'm asking for fees right here. I would put as number 14, I would add conservators reimbursement or something like that and drop this to be 15. And I would say during this account period, I personally paid expenses in the amount of 3,500. And if there is ever a sale of this property, I wish to be reimbursed those fees. And then when you come down to your prayer, you're going to you would typically repeat something like that, like add in, I paid these expenses, up front. If the house is ever sold, I request reimbursement of these fees, and then do that again on your order, because if you have an order signed by a judge that states that you get reimbursed if that house is ever sold, you get reimbursed those fees, then you would get those fees back. Otherwise, you just did it out of the kindness of your heart, sweetheart.
Okay. And then
But
thank you.
that's not in accounting. That's in a separate expense report. So remember where I said Exhibit A would be your accounting?
Yes.
In your case, you might want to add Exhibit B being your expense report.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. And then also for um for the form GC 400, the first page, it said opening date of account through closing date of account. How would I do that? There's not an actual account I'm like working with. Would that just be like,
Honey, so you're different. You're probate. So you're going to state date of death, which is the date that you put on your inventory and appraisal. I'm trying to get to that form. You would put
okay,
date of death here.
uh,
And so on your GC 400, you will put date of death, and your ending date will be whatever your ending date is. So if you're doing it right now, your ending date might be 12/31/2025. If you want to wait and include January, you would do it in February and say my ending date is January 31st, 2026. It's
so a day
whenever.
close to when I'm putting this in the court.
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
It doesn't, not the exact date. You would go to the last bank statement you've received. Don't worry about up through today's date, which is the 15th, because you
okay,
wouldn't get a bank statement for that. You'd have to wait till after the 31st.
gotcha. And last question, do all petitions need pleading paper?
Yes.
Okay,
There is one court, and I think she dropped off. There is one court where I want to say it's Riverside actually, where they have a form. It's called R as in Robert I P R 006 or something like that. That is the petition that is you fill in boxes. No other court would accept that. So please don't try and manipulate by going to that courthouse, taking their form, and doing it by filling in boxes. It needs to be on pleading paper. And you can see why. There might be several questions that are different than what the form asks that might apply to your case. So that's why there's no specific form already created that you just fill in boxes, because they don't know what's happened within your time period.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for all your help.
Welcome. Any more? Okay, so now I want to get to just the ones that are left, and I want to be quick. I know y'all want to go. There, you can fill out a questionnaire and rate the class what you think. You can take the class as much as you want. You can repeat the class as much as you want. Please understand, I repeat a lot of the information. I don't cover any other topics, and my examples might be a tiny bit different based on cases I've looked at in between or have worked on in between, things of that nature. But pretty much it's the same. You can repeat the class as much as you want. And otherwise, we just don't get into more topics or materials or anything else. And I know we don't cover everything. We just possibly don't have time for that, because I've taught the same accounting class myself, because I do them for LDAs, or what's called CALDA, CALDA, and that's an organization for people like me who are registered legal document assistants. So I taught a class of 300, there was 300 or more people. And my class was a 2-day class, and each day was 6 hours long. So a total of 12 hours. I took this accounting class and went schedule by schedule, and it was almost an hour each schedule, giving samples and examples and things like that. So we have to combine it and come down to a 3-hour class for this. And it's difficult to cover everything. It might be frustrating that we can't cover everything, but it's just the time we're allotted. And so we give you as much information as we can. We truly do.
I have a quick question for you.
Yes, honey.
And thank you again for all your information. And I know that I don't have it of a state unless somehow I'm going to end up with that.
Right.
But the question I have is, it was my understanding that I was required to take this course if I'm
For a conservatorship, you're supposed to, yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
So even conservatorship of just the person.
Correct.
Limited
I know.
conservatorship. Okay, where and how do I show that I've done this?
You need to contact, honey, the library where you signed up, and you will ask them. But if you also want to, I know Rex gives out completion certificates. If you email him at the info@rexcrandell.net or com, I don't remember which one he said, but his detail will be in the email that sent you all this material. You can ask for a certificate of completion for the class. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really give you anything, but you can turn in that. But I will tell you, with the courts, when they say you have to complete that class, yes, you have to complete that class. But I've never known any court require you to turn in something that says you completed the class.
Okay.
If anything, they'll just have you testify in a declaration that you completed the class, but I've never seen that happen either.
Thank you.
So really don't concern yourself. If somebody asks you, yes, I completed the class. If they wanted some type of proof, again, I've never seen that happen, but if they wanted it, you could get a certificate.
And if somebody wants to watch the recording of this, how do they get a copy of the recording?
You would have to contact Rex, honey. I don't know anything. Him and I don't work at the same office for the same. I work for myself. he has his own firm. So you would have to contact him on that. I know nothing about recordings.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just here blabbing.
May I say this? And I have to run to another appointment.
Yes.
For me, this has been a wealth of knowledge. A wealth of knowledge. You can imagine the stories you get when you're selling probate property and conservatorship and guardianship, and it's knowledge for me, and I really appreciate it. And you have did a wonderful job. And also, I need to know, when is the next class?
Honey, I think it's in the materials. I'm positive that and I see Sean is saying yes because I sent it to her last night or yesterday.
Okay.
Oh wow, it's not part of this. I do know our next class. Ooh, Shauna, speak up. I sent it to you. I have to look it up. Do you have it in
It's
front of
in
you?
April 24th or something.
Let me see if I can find what I sent you to get the exact date. April 23rd is the next one, honey. They're always typically the third Thursday of the month. The reason why it's April 23rd is Rex does tax. I help him with tax clients along with all the work I do for probate and accountings. So I'm pretty slammed up through April 15th. So the reason why it's specifically the 23rd is it's after the tax deadline. And then there's one June 18th. There's one August 20th.
Sorry, Tamara, I have a different date on the one that I got from you. It says Thursday, April 17th. Oh, that was 2025. I don't have 2026. Sorry, this is the old one.
I'm like, no, okay.
Okay, yeah, I had the wrong one. Sorry.
You're good, sweetheart. I'm like, oh Lord. August 20th and then October 15th will be the last one we give for 2026. And again, the reason being is November runs into Thanksgiving, December runs into Christmas and all the other things that are going on. And it's really, too much for both Rex and I to do the class. So those are the dates through 2026.
Okay, so that's included with the package that you sent us. I don't think I went all the way to the back, but I try to look.
No, it looks, well, I'm not sure because I don't really see the package that was sent to you. I only have my own. Yes, I get a copy of it, but I ignore it because I have my own training materials. So I'm not sure, honey, but you can get the information from the Contra Costa County Law Library if what you received was outdated and only included 2025 materials.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other dates on that flyer are located on one of the handouts that was given that was emailed. So one of the things that you open has the flyer with all the dates and information.
Thank you, sweetheart.
You're welcome.
And just Shauna, what do you think? We just discussed this. Let me just say for people that are still here, she only talked to me yesterday at what, 5? So she jumped in. I'm like, hurry up and call the law library. And so she jumped in this very last minute. Honey, do you feel that you got, I know you didn't get everything out of it, it's so much, but how do you feel the information? Was I good in what I explained to you that was similar to what I taught?
Yeah, I think the page that you were telling me about to do for the order, kind of like the other lawyer I told you did, he had already done
yes,
an order.
Yes.
So that attaching that and writing that up, I can do that now and add it to the form that the RI or the form which was for probate, the RI PR 0006 for the Riverside County. I can add that to it.
And again, what she's talking about, everyone, is her Riverside allowed her a pre-populated form. So she filled out her pre-populated form. But go ahead, honey. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
didn't mean.
I think that will help, and then I can add the ones that pertain to me and how to do some of the language changes that I need to do
Perfect.
on it. I don't have like the accounting part of the class didn't really apply to me just because there was cash, but it's gone, like you said,
Right. I got it.
and I
It
don't
flew
have
away, right?
my stepfather, who was a
It flew
primary, or he was the
away.
original personal representative. He moved things and I can't find anything.
It
So
flew.
yeah, it pooped. So there's nothing I can do about that. But hopefully this, will I don't want it getting kicked back. So now hopefully this won't get my paperwork kicked back to me as much as it's already gotten kicked back in probate for me.
Yay!
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to sign off because I'm
Thank you.
starving. And so I want to say thank you to everybody. Again, I left my contact information in the chat. If you didn't get it by now, you're going to lose it because we're going to close down the accounting class. I may see you at next ones, but if not, I wish you great success. And thank you for spending the day with me. And I wish you a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys.
Really
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I got to see if I can end this class. No.
Tamara, are you
Yes.
still there? This is Sheila. I'm sorry.
Hi, sweetheart. Go ahead.
I'm a little quiet and a little shy and a little nervous.
Don't
But
be, honey. Don't be.
okay. But the GC 400 form, do I get that at the library as well? Because I'm all new to
No,
all.
no, honey. Go online. You'll
Go
see
online.
it. All you do is type in GC 400. If
Uh-huh.
it's the sum, type in GC 400 sum. If
Okay.
it's the any of the specific schedules, you can either type in that schedule name or you can type in GC 400 receipts or GC 400 disbursements, and
Okay.
it'll come up with all the forms, blank forms
Okay.
for you, honey.
And then I don't have to worry about the pleading paper as well.
You're going to have to write a petition, so
Right.
yes, you would download a pleading paper.
Okay.
Now, I do know you can go to the library and
Mm-hmm.
you can pay a fee
Mm-hmm.
for blank forms that
Okay.
will, but the hard part is that would mean you would have to handwrite on those forms, which isn't really.
No, because I have chicken scratch.
There you go. So I really would think you would want to download the forms. They're going to be PDF. Get yourself Adobe PDF if you don't
Okay.
have it. And
Okay.
then you can type by doing the typewriter tools. You
Okay.
can type in that form, your numbers.
Okay, great.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Okay. Thanks
Good
for the
luck.
time.
All
Thank
right.
you. You take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.